What if the person you thought you knew didn't die by choice? What if behind the carefully written suicide note and the closed casket was something far darker? Today's story will take you into the heart of a mystery where the truth was buried beneath lies, until an autopsy tore everything open. But before we unravel the chilling truth behind Elise Morgan's death, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a single twist. Because in this case, the most haunting detail wasn't what they found, it was what they missed. Elise Morgan, a 29-year-old schoolteacher known for her soft voice and even softer heart, was found hanging in her bedroom. The scene was simple, almost peaceful. A single note on the nightstand. A bedroom door locked from the inside. Everyone thought it was suicide. Everyone, except the person who knew her best. Narrator. What happened to Elise Morgan would go on to shake this community to its core. And when the autopsy results came back, they didn't just hint at a darker truth. They screamed it. Before we dive into this chilling case, take a second to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the secrets we're about to uncover. Now, let's go back to where it all began. The morning sun poured gently through the lace curtains of Elise Morgan's tiny cottage, the same way it had for the past 3 years since she moved into Brookridge. To anyone passing by, her life looked serene, almost picturesque. A perfectly kept garden out front. A bright red mailbox with her name carefully painted in script. A small wind chime that sang quietly every time the wind passed through. Elise was the kind of woman who remembered your dog's name. She made banana bread for new neighbors and always left a little hand-drawn note in her students' lunchboxes. Her third-grade classroom at Willow Creek Elementary was more than just a space for learning, it was a place that felt safe, warm, loved. But what most didn't see was how deeply Elise carried pain. She had lost her mother at 15 to breast cancer. Her father, once her anchor, turned into a stranger wrapped in alcohol and silence. At 18 she left home. No goodbyes. Just a duffel bag and a scholarship to the University of Vermont. Despite her quiet charm and soft laugh, Elise kept people at a distance. She had friends, yes, but no one who truly knew her. Except one. Rachel. Rachel Bennett had been Elise's best friend since freshman year of college. They were opposites. Rachel loud and impulsive, Elise cautious and reflective, but inseparable. Rachel was the only one Elise ever confided in about her nightmares. About the guilt, the fear, the sleepless nights. So when Rachel received a call from the Brookridge Police Department saying Elise had taken her own life, she didn't cry. Not at first. She felt cold. And she felt certain. Elise didn't do this. The morning sun hadn't yet risen when Officer Dana Mullins was dispatched to a quiet residential cul-de-sac on the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina. The 911 call had come in at 6:13 a.m. sharp. A woman reported finding her husband dead in their backyard. When Dana arrived, the street was still hushed, suburban homes bathed in that eerie blue of pre-dawn light. But the scene that greeted her was anything but peaceful. There, hanging from the thick branch of an old oak tree behind the house, was the lifeless body of 38-year-old Thomas Ellery. A rope, tightly wound around his neck, creaked slightly in the breeze. His feet dangled just inches above the ground, swaying gently, almost rhythmically. His wife Anna stood off to the side in her robe, barefoot and trembling. Her hands were shaking as she held a mug of untouched coffee, and her eyes were red, not from tears, but from the sheer shock that hadn't quite worn off. "He was depressed," she murmured. "I knew he'd been struggling, but I didn't think he'd actually do it." There was a note too. Folded neatly on the back porch table, sealed in a Ziploc bag as if he'd planned this down to the last detail. In tidy cursive, the letter read, "I'm sorry. I can't go on like this. I love you. Please forgive me. Signed simply Thomas." To the untrained eye, it all looked like a textbook suicide. The rope, the note, the grieving widow. But something about it didn't sit right with Officer Mullins. For one thing, Thomas's shoes were muddy, despite the ground around the tree being bone dry. His knuckles had faint bruises, and there was a small scrape above his left ear. Nothing major, but odd for someone who had supposedly taken his own life in a calm, planned manner. More strange, there were 2 coffee mugs on the back porch table. One full, one empty. Only Anna's fingerprints would later be found on both. As the forensic team snapped photographs and began processing the scene, Dana stepped back and looked again. The placement of the chair, the one Thomas allegedly used to step off, was a few feet too far away. Could it have been moved? Her instincts, honed over 15 years in law enforcement, whispered one thing. This wasn't suicide. It was just too clean. Too convenient. And if she was right, Then someone had gone to great lengths to stage a murder as a suicide, and nearly got away with it. Detective Mark Renshaw had seen plenty in his 15 years on the force. Homicides that were gruesome, cases that were heartbreaking, and enough staged suicides to know when something wasn't adding up. When the Ellery case landed on his desk, the initial report labeled it as a suicide. But something about the inconsistencies flagged by Officer Mullins caught his attention. He visited the scene the very next morning, not relying on photographs alone. The tree, the rope, the placement of the chair. It all looked rehearsed, too controlled. When he questioned Anna Ellery, her grief was present, but rehearsed in a different way. "I heard the back door," she said softly, eyes distant. "I thought maybe he was just going for some air. When I woke up again I saw him. Out there." Renshaw nodded, jotting notes, but his mind was already spinning. Anna had said she'd been asleep. But phone records showed she had called her sister at 5:45 a.m., 30 minutes before she dialed 911. The call lasted 43 seconds. When questioned, her sister said Anna whispered something along the lines of, "It's done." What was done? Renshaw ordered a full autopsy, refusing to sign off on the suicide designation until he had more. 3 days later the report came back. Cause of death, ligature strangulation. Manner of death, undetermined. But here's what stood out. The marks on Thomas's neck weren't consistent with hanging. Instead of a sharp, upward V-shaped ligature mark, his injuries were more horizontal, like someone had pulled the rope tight from behind while he struggled. And then there were the bruises. Defensive wounds, the medical examiner concluded. Not deep but recent. He'd fought back. That changed everything. Detective Renshaw got a warrant to search the Ellery home in more detail. What he found shifted the case from suspicious to sinister. On Anna's laptop, there were multiple searches logged under her user profile. How long does it take to die from hanging? Suicide scene checklist. Best ways to fake suicide. Can bruises show up after death? The dates of those searches? All within the week before Thomas died. But that wasn't all. Detectives found a deleted email draft on Anna's device, auto-saved by her email provider, that read, "He won't leave. He won't give me the money. If he's gone, I get it all. I just need to make it look clean." It was never sent, but it was there. And with that, Detective Renshaw was no longer looking at a grieving widow. He was looking at a suspect. As Detective Renshaw delved deeper into Anna's background, what emerged was a portrait far more complicated and calculated than anyone expected. To the outside world, Anna Ellery was the perfect suburban wife. She baked cupcakes for school events, hosted neighborhood wine nights, and posted loving tributes to her husband on Facebook. But online images, Renshaw knew, were often just carefully cropped illusions. He started tracing her digital trail. First stop, her bank records. In the 6 months leading up to Thomas's death, Anna had opened not one, but 2 credit cards in her name only. They weren't maxed out, but they were close. Nearly $22,000 in combined debt. That might not have raised red flags on its own, until Renshaw discovered where the money had gone. A string of large payments, each just under $5,000, were traced to a private account belonging to a man named Dean Calmer, a name Thomas's colleagues would later say they had never heard Anna mention. Dean was a bartender at a resort 2 states away. When questioned, he admitted to casually seeing Anna. "She said her marriage was over," Dean explained. "She told me she was filing for divorce and that she'd be coming into some money soon." Detectives weren't just stunned by the affair, they were stunned by the timeline. Anna had first met Dean on a yoga retreat the year prior. From then on, she'd been making regular weekend trips out of town, under the guise of visiting her aging aunt. But there was no aunt. Anna had even emailed Dean an image of a house she said they'd buy together, once everything was settled. The email was dated just 10 days before Thomas's death. Even more damning was a handwritten list found in Anna's bedroom drawer. It was titled, "Things to do after Tom's gone." The list read like a grocery checklist. Cancel insurance. Collect payout. Pay off Dean's car. Book flight to Belize. It was chilling. Cold. Meticulous. At this point, Detective Renshaw had a clear theory. Anna Ellery didn't just want out of her marriage, she wanted out rich. With Thomas's life insurance policy totaling over $750,000, and no prenuptial agreement in place, she stood to gain everything. There was just one thing in her way, Thomas himself. The evidence was stacking up. The digital searches, the financial trail, the affair, the motive, the bruises. But they still didn't have a smoking gun. What finally cracked the case wide open was a neighbor's doorbell camera. And that moment changed everything. As Detective Renshaw sifted through evidence, something caught his eye, a tiny, almost insignificant detail in the case file. The doorbell camera footage from Anna's neighbor, Michelle Green. Michelle lived 2 doors down from Anna and had always been friendly but never overly close. The Green family had a security camera mounted by their front door, a popular model that had a motion sensor, a high-quality night vision, and a recording feature. The footage had been automatically uploaded to the cloud the night Thomas was found dead. When Renshaw asked for the footage, Michelle was happy to provide it, but she had no idea just how important it would be. She had no clue that her little piece of tech would ultimately serve as the linchpin in the entire investigation. The footage started around 10:45 p.m. on the night of Thomas's death. The timestamp clearly showed the date and time. At first, the video was mostly uneventful, just the regular evening bustle of neighbors coming home and walking their dogs. But then, something chilling happened. At precisely 10:58 p.m., the camera caught Anna Ellery leaving her house. Her stride was calm, unhurried, as if nothing was out of the ordinary. She was carrying a large bag, a duffel bag that seemed unusually heavy for a late-night walk. But the strangest thing about the footage was what happened next. As she reached the edge of her yard, Anna hesitated for a brief moment, glancing back toward her house. The way she looked over her shoulder was deliberate, almost like she was checking to make sure Thomas wasn't watching her. Then Anna walked across the street, disappearing from the camera's view. What Detective Renshaw found odd was the location Anna had gone toward, the same area where a nearby creek ran behind a thick stretch of trees. That path was only used by locals, people who knew the area well, and was considered to be dangerous at night. Renshaw immediately connected the dots. Anna hadn't just gone for a walk. She was carrying something heavy, something that had to do with Thomas's death. The very next day, Renshaw gathered his team and headed to that stretch of woods. They combed the area meticulously, and 2 hours later, they found what they were looking for: a shallow grave hidden beneath a pile of leaves and branches. And there, buried in the mud, was Thomas Ellery's lifeless body. It was a gruesome discovery, but it was enough to secure a search warrant for Anna's home. When they searched her house, they found an even more damning piece of evidence: a pair of latex gloves with traces of Thomas's blood. The entire story was coming together now. Anna had killed her husband, staged his death to look like suicide, and tried to cover her tracks with a carefully orchestrated alibi. But she had underestimated the power of modern technology. The camera footage, the grave, the bloodied gloves, everything pointed to Anna Ellery as the cold-blooded killer who had been hiding in plain sight. It wasn't just a crime of passion, it was a calculated, methodical murder that Anna thought she could get away with. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Detective Renshaw knew that the case was all but wrapped up. He'd gathered enough evidence to charge Anna with murder, but there was still one critical piece missing: a confession. Anna had been quiet during the investigation, her silence almost eerie, as if she were waiting for something. Her lawyer had been advising her to remain calm and not speak to the police, but Renshaw knew from experience that a guilty conscience often betrayed people in ways they couldn't control. And that's when Renshaw decided to try something bold. He scheduled a one-on-one interview with Anna in the interrogation room. He walked in with the evidence: photos of the shallow grave, the gloves with Thomas's blood, and the damning footage from the neighbor's security camera. Anna sat there, hands folded neatly in her lap, her face unreadable. "Anna, you've been through a lot," Renshaw began, his voice calm but firm. "But the truth is right in front of us. You tried to make it look like your husband took his own life. But we know it wasn't suicide." Anna didn't say anything. She just stared at him, her eyes vacant, her lips pursed tight. "We found the body, Anna. We saw you in the footage. We found the gloves with his blood on them. This is your chance to be honest with us. Tell us what happened." For a long moment, Anna just sat there, not moving a muscle. The silence stretched, making the air thick with tension. Then, just when Renshaw was about to push further, Anna did something unexpected. She slowly lifted her head and met his gaze. "Okay," she said, her voice a whisper. "I did it. But you don't understand, he was going to ruin me. I had no choice." Renshaw's heart raced as Anna began to speak, unraveling the twisted web of lies and deceit she had woven. "I loved Thomas once. But after the kids were born, after everything changed, he wasn't the same man. He became distant, controlling. He threatened to take everything from me, our kids, the house, everything. I couldn't let him. I couldn't let him have that power over me," Anna explained, her voice trembling slightly. "I waited for the right moment," she continued. "I knew he would be alone that night. I staged it all, made it look like a suicide. I was so careful, Renshaw. I thought I'd get away with it. Her eyes glistened with tears as she recalled the moment of his death. "I didn't want to kill him at first. But when I saw how easily I could manipulate the situation, I just snapped. And once it was done, I thought I could cover it up. But I never thought you would find that camera footage." Renshaw listened, but his mind was reeling. What she was describing wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a crime of cold calculation. Anna had planned every detail, from the way she staged the scene to the alibi she'd built for herself. She'd thought she was smarter than the law. But in the end she wasn't. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted to survive. And now everything's falling apart." Anna's voice cracked as she began to sob. Renshaw sat silently for a moment, watching as the woman he had once believed to be a grieving widow finally confessed to her crimes. In the end, it wasn't the evidence that brought Anna down, it was her own guilt, her own fear of being caught, that forced her to break. Now that Anna had confessed, the real work began. The case was closed, and Renshaw's team worked tirelessly to ensure that Anna faced the consequences of her actions. But the investigation had taken a toll on everyone involved. It was a reminder that sometimes, even those who seem the most innocent can harbor dark secrets. As Anna Ellery was charged with the murder of her husband, Thomas, the community was left to pick up the pieces. Friends, family, and neighbors struggled to understand how someone they had known and trusted could have done such a thing. The once perfect family was shattered, and Anna's actions left an indelible mark on everyone who had been close to her. For Detective Renshaw, it was just another case. Another story of a broken person who resorted to murder to get what they thought they deserved. But for Anna, the truth had finally caught up with her, and there was no way to outrun it. If you found this story as chilling as we did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more gripping true crime stories. What do you think about Anna's confession? Let us know in the comments below. Did she really have no choice, or was it all about control? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on another dark tale of crime and mystery. Stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most shocking truths are the ones closest to us.